July 13th, 2023. We have a healthy quorum tonight, so we're ready to go. We've got the minutes from June 15th, 2023 regular meeting. Have the commissioners had an opportunity to review those? Are there any questions on those? Any corrections? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes for June 15th.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Carter. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Fox. All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Okay, we've got minutes. Bills. John, do you want to handle those tonight?
Yeah, those are pretty easy this month. We really didn't have anything of substance, which is unusual for us. Nothing really to point out as far as project expenses.
Does anybody have a question on the bills?
I'll move the bills here.
Okay. Commissioner Fox moves the bills. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor signify by saying aye or yes.
Aye.
I gotta get my aye and yes thing together because I know I'm dyslexic on that, so I'm just trying to keep you all awake. That's what I'm doing. We're gonna go with that. Okay. Okay. Any opposed? Same sign. Okay. We've got bills. The business. Our first business item is item A, Resolution 2023-09. Approve the Facet Improvement Program grant for Busted Nut.
Alrighty.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Alex.
Hi there. How's it going?
Facade, I should say.
Commission. First order of business. I guess three business items on here. First order of business is, like you said, Resolution 2023-09 Facade Improvement Program for 118 2nd Street East, the Busted Nut. So the city received an application from Tasha and Phil Nelson, owners of the Busted Nut, asking for financial assistance for some exterior work on their properties. So the scope includes pressure washing and site prep, decorative trim replacement, and painting of the exterior of the building. The total of that comes out to $10,800, and with a 2-to-1 matching, the maximum that we recommend is $3,600. There was a math error put into the notes, but it has been updated in the resolution. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Did they participate in the facade project last year or when?
Yes, they did participate last year, so they were not eligible to be considered until July 1st of this year.
Oh, so they never received funding?
No, they did receive funding last year. They had additional work that they were going to do. They did, I believe, some tuck pointing last year, a lot more brickwork,
Okay.
and this is more painting.
All right, thank you.
Okay, if there's no other question, I'll stand for a motion for 2023-09.
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Globush,
Second.
second by Commissioner Johnson. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Okay. Let's move on to item B under business, Resolution 2023-10. Authorized signature of Third Amendment to purchase agreement for the River City Investment LLC, the Seaward Apartments.
Thank you again. So, just a quick refresher on the project, that River City Investments LLC is currently in an agreement with the city to purchase the pictured lot here for the eventual development of a 32-unit market rate apartment building. The developer originally had the purchase agreement end date was to be August 1st of this year. The developer is asking for a revised closing date of 1-year extension, so August 1st of 2024. The reason being that the bids for the project came back unfavorably, and the developer is intending to rebid this fall with the intent of beginning in early spring for 2024. So the August closing date is the worst case scenario if things don't come back, and the expected timeline. Just for, again, refresher, so the highlighted box is the property that the developer does intend on purchasing. They own the property just adjacent to the west, so it makes up that southeastern quarter block of the area. And this development, since it is the first and redevelopment for this block, would kind of set the tone for the future redevelopment of the area. I believe that is everything that I have. I will, yield.
Yeah, and I could get a little more background on this, HEDRA. As you won't know, that we've been involved in the project here since 2021. We had an extension that we approved last year as a one-year extension onto the project, and that is set to expire August 1st of this year. So Mr. Seward is asking us for an additional one-year extension on the project. He is here tonight and can address some of the progress that he's made, some of the challenges that he's faced, and give you an idea of what the progression may be on it. When you take a look at the property itself, obviously when we're taking this property into consideration, it is impossible for us to develop this on our own. This is a piece of property that needs to be developed in conjunction with neighboring properties on this one. So we're in a situation where the question's going to come up, and it's a fair question: what is HEDRA out if we decide not to move forward or decide to extend this property another year? In this case, there's nobody knocking at the doors. I don't expect anyone to be knocking at the door on this property. I think it's really a question for you, for the HEDRA tonight, as to if you're comfortable with the project and you're comfortable with a year extension on it. I don't think we're out anything at this point, but if you believe that if the project has not been viable to this point, and you have an idea that, or suspect that the project may not be viable over the long term, maybe that's something to consider at this point and say, hey, this is not a project in which we're going to move forward under this development agreement. Doesn't preclude Mr. Seward from coming back in the future with something different. So that's really the conundrum tonight, is really what to do on this one. So I'll let it at that. And Luke, I'm not sure if you have anything to add, that if you want to come up to the podium as far as where you're at on the project and what's occurred over the last year.
Yeah.
And can I, just before you
Yeah.
start, Luke, I believe I'm remembering this right. Luke, you bought the adjoining property, right? You've
Yeah,
already
I own-
invested in the
Yep.
adjoining lot. I think that's important that you've taken that step.
Yep, so I purchased that in 2017 with future plans to do this, and it just took a few years to kind of get the planning and to kind of make this jump. And then I was closely part of the development that my dad had done, so I kind of saw the process, so kind of moved forward with the first purchase agreement with this lot. I needed that to be kind of tied in to get the plans started, and the planning as far as the architectural, structural, civil, all that that goes involved with these projects took a substantial amount of time, so that's what required the first then extension. And then we were on track to start building next spring. We had started the building permit process. We had everything ready to go with Xcel Energy because there's overhead power lines on this site as well. And we were essentially ready to submit, but then our bids came in about 35% higher than the initial. And part of it, as you all know, is COVID related, and then the lead times were just too far out, so I had to kind of step back at that moment. And then in the meantime, now I've been meeting with contractors on a weekly basis and kind of casted a wide net to kind of gain more experience in this, the multifamily world, and kind of been leaning on their expertise right now. And of course, then since last year, rates have now doubled. So it's kind of navigating that as well. So right now I'm just kind of leaning on them as far as when we should resubmit for bidding, because the problem you have with these projects, if you continue to submit for bids, it's a lot of work on the subcontracting side. So if they keep seeing it coming through and not becoming a reality, it can be kind of pushed aside when it is right. So I haven't been sending it out and just kind of been using estimated numbers that they've been able to provide me. And those estimates right now, they said, still wait because we need those costs to come down if rates remain where they're at. And it's kind of where we're at. So I wish I had better news for you right now that the project was moving forward. I drive by the site frequently, and the house has been vacated. I had to do that with anticipation we were going to tear it down last spring, and I've kind of left it like that just with anticipation that when the timing's right, I'll be ready to go. So I've been doing my due diligence and making sure I meet with the proper people weekly, and the plans are all ready, so it's ready to go. So I've put a substantial financial commitment in that aspect as far as, and then of course time as well. As you all know, we've been meeting on this for quite a few years now. But it's essential for me to have the purchase agreement in place because when I meet with these contractors to send it out for bidding, they need to make sure I have a viable lot to build on. And without that purchase agreement, it's just a hypothetical. So if I am ready to move forward and want to jump into it and I don't have that purchase agreement, I know I can come back to you, but it's just that extra step then because they're not going to, I guess, bid it out without having that security in place because, as I mentioned, it is time consuming to send out for bidding and they want to make sure I have a lot to build on. So that's kind of where it's at right now.
Thanks. Anybody have questions? Commissioner Anderson?
Are you still at that like 35% off, or how close are you?
The construction costs have come down. A lot of the contractors had work through this year still, so they haven't come down as quickly as they anticipated. So we're hoping moving into this next year that the construction costs and labor will substantially come down. But then it's now trying to factor in how far they have to come down to offset the new interest rates. So I've been meeting with the Small Business Development Center in Rochester to help navigate those numbers. And then, like I had mentioned, kind of leaning on these contractors to kind of figure out when it's most competitive to send out, which typically is fall and winter, is because everyone's looking for work for the next year. And so that's our intentions right now. But like they've told me numerous times, they don't have a crystal ball. So we have to kind of wait to get to that point to see, I guess, where interest rates are at that point too and where things are projected. So it's kind of a moving target in a sense. But the numbers on the project have since come down since that last year, but it's not enough to offset the changes in the rates, I guess.
Okay. I think, me professionally being close to the commodity world, I'm not sure that we're going to come down much farther than we are.
Yep.
So I think I have concerns about the viability going forward, or the costs coming down any further than they already are.
What we've been doing too is looking at some engineering aspects, so value engineering the project. So I've had numerous companies look at it to figure out ways we can engineer the current plans differently to help save costs. And I think the biggest issue we've been running into is the commodities have come down some, but the labor has kind of offset things, and they think the labor part of it is going to be much more competitive here as work's running out, because I met with the architect here recently, and this was the first year in 5 years that they had a significant slowdown in these properties, which hopefully will mean then there's going to be much more competitive work for this style of building. I've learned through this process that this building is relatively small in the grand scheme, so we're running into some issues on the pricing side with that, but they've assured me that's very doable, so I've just kind of been now looking for their support, I guess. So,
Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate the commodities background. I clearly don't have that, so thank you, Commissioner Anderson, for adding that. I really also value the investment that Mr. Seward has made in this project, and that, like was said earlier, the potential for this location and what we could potentially do there is really critical to the property next door. So I think considering the volatile market and the precious property that we have right now, I think moving forward, having another year extension would be reasonable while keeping close communication with Mr. Seward on how things are moving forward. So I would be in favor of moving this forward with as a partner on it.
Thank you.
Luke, I understand the complexity of the situation and the market outlook but I think looking as where are we going to go? As far as the city is concerned, you know, your option's right there, and it's like, okay, I guess I'm leaning to the idea that, nope, let's go another year, and, you know, hopefully things have changed, and you can move ahead with this project, and we can get it off the plate. And with that thought, I will move the motion.
I have one question. I'm asking you to take out probably a muddy crystal ball.
Yeah.
But, you know, you're going to rebid fall. Realistically, when do you think I mean, we're
Yeah.
kicking it out a year, but realistically, what are you looking at there?
Okay, can I just, one quick interruption, just a point of clarification here. So was that a motion on the floor, Commissioner Pemble? Yes. We should have a second to that and then open it up
Thank
for
you, Don.
discussion.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Second, Your Honor.
Second by Fox. First motion by Pemble, second by Fox. So if you, yeah.
Yeah. So the last bid took about a little over a month to get the figures back. That was coming at a time when a lot of contractors were busy. So I'd imagine it would still be within that time frame of when we sent it out to get the numbers back. Then it's using those numbers and kind of putting it together and meeting with the lenders to determine if the project is going to work at that point. So I guess as far as to answer your question, the bidding will take a month, and then from there, I guess I don't know how long from there to closing it would be, but the goal of bidding it in the fall, winter would be for a spring start time. So we'd be trying to we'd probably be doing a lot of site work originally because I have everything ready to demolish the house. I had to have it tested for asbestos, and I have that all completed. So we'd probably start site work prior to the ground thawing, and then the next step would be XL Energy Center, which I have created. I've worked with them for about a year and a half now, and they had to create a design to move those power lines underground. So the design portion has been completed and paid for, so that will speed things up too, because I was kind of at the mercy of their timeline, the original project time. I had met with them 8 months prior to when we were hoping to start, and that's the earliest I could get them was going to be in the spring, but then we actually had an issue with their design too, which kind of delayed things and then inevitably kind of halted the project. But bidding it in the winter, my goal would be as soon as the ground's thawed to kind of get going. So
Yeah, I think that helps because I know, you know, just conversations with the
Yep.
city, you know, we're kicking it out to August 1st, but obviously if things just fall apart on you or if
For
they're
sure.
really a go, we'll most likely know
Yeah.
well before that date,
Yeah.
correct? Okay, thanks. Commissioner Anderson?
Yeah, I have one more thing. So if things don't work out the way you hope they do,
Yep.
I guess what's the plan? I guess those questions for John and you.
Well, and then part of me too is because being I am so financially invested in the project itself as far as the plans go, I probably have to start renting the duplex out again to kind of keep that part of it afloat. So truthfully, I don't know what I'd probably have to hang on to that for the foreseeable future. And right now it's not rented, and then it was actually vandalized as well. So I'd have to put work into the duplex, and then it would just return to what it was prior to me approaching HEDRA for this lot. So it would, I guess, remain a single-family home duplex and be a rental until a developer approached me, or I guess I don't know what the next steps would be, but.
Right, thanks.
Was there a question for me, Commissioner, as well?
Well, no,
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, my thought is we've come down a long road with you,
Yeah.
and to start all over, you know,
Yeah.
with somebody else, it's not gonna, you know, we're talking 6 months to 9 months here, and
Yeah.
I think we need to continue to move it forward, so. All right, with that, are we ready to vote? Okay, this is Resolution 2023-10. It's to authorize signature of the Third Amendment to the purchase agreement with River City Investments. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign? Okay.
Great.
Thanks for coming
Thanks,
tonight.
everyone.
Yep. All right, item C on our business agenda is Resolution 2023-11, approve facade improvement program grant for 117 Second Street East. Alex?
All righty, yeah. Commission, thank you. The second facade improvement program application we received was for 117 Second Street East, the Meyer Company building. Specifically, the applicant is intending on, oh no, wrong one. Oh, there we go. Nope. That's why. Thank you. Computers. The property is highlighted in yellow, and then the work intended is specifically on the lower roof, so the box in red there. And the full scope includes just, it's a full roof replacement for the rear part of the building. The applicant did receive some funding last year. Again, they had to wait until July 1st to be considered for funding again. However, they were the last applicant to receive funding last year, so they did not get the full amount that they would have been able to because the funds ran out. So they have the current eligible costs are just north of $15,000, and given the 2-to-1 matching that's required, the maximum that the city could provide is $5,000 towards this project.
Commissioner Johnson?
A question for staff. Do you know, is this a designated heritage preservation site?
Yes.
Okay, just because that's a requirement for eligibility for roofs, correct?
I believe it is for roofs, yes.
Any other questions of Alex? If not, I'll take a motion to approve Resolution 2023-11.
So moved.
Commissioner Anderson? I'll second it. Second, Commissioner Goldberg. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. All right. Thank you, Alex. Good job. We have reports and information now, the 2024 budget. John, are you going to do that one?
Yes, I can
Okay.
give a recap of what we're looking at for 2024 budget requests. So we're putting together our budgets as staff members for city council consideration. HEDRA is a little bit of an unusual creature in the fact that we have some allocation that comes directly from the city council budget, or the city of Hastings budget, and then we also have our own allocation through a special HRA levy. The HRA levy generates probably about $450,000 or so, and then the remaining funding does come directly through the city of Hastings. So taking a look at our priorities through our strategic planning and the projects that we have going on, I put together a budget for council consideration based upon those priorities. Probably the biggest thing on there is looking at our Block 28 project. That is the acquisitions that we have done for the barbershop property, for Rivertown Liquors, et cetera. We've been able to acquire 4 properties over the last couple of years based upon existing fund balance that is left in the HRA account. That fund balance has diminished with the acquisitions we've made. And so our ability to utilize the fund balance for future acquisitions is not there. And so we're asking for allocation directly from the city for about $500,000 this year for acquisition of properties there. The 2 properties in general that we would like to acquire on that block would be the Sparrow Pizza property as well as the EDS Dental properties. So have not made any specific overtures to either of those properties in the last few months. Both properties, our owners are aware that it is our desire to purchase and to redevelop that property, but that's one big change for next year, is asking the council directly for that allocation. Some of these other priorities that we have here are based upon existing programs that we are involved in. Facade improvement grant program, which we just went through, carrying that forward next year for $50,000. We'll see how it goes this year. For 24-23, we haven't had as many applications in as we had in 22. There may be a situation in which improvements are done and the amount of projects out there is diminished. And if that's the case, that's something that we'll really examine early in 23, and maybe we'll have to do some reallocation of those. But I still wanted to provide that opportunity yet for 2024. We have a revolving loan grant fund, or revolving loan fund. This is something based out of our fund balance for $120,000. It's really an allocation of funds that we have on hand. Had that program for a number of years. That program is one in which it provides good financing and good assistance for projects, although we don't get a lot of them. When they do come, they're very helpful to have. Pointing back last year to the stuff that we did with the Spiral Co-op, that was very necessary for them to move forward on their project. Other one I have is Downtown Environmental Cleanup, which is a project that has been in there as a placeholder for a number of years now. We've got on the area north of Art Space, the property we own there, we do have some environmental cleanup that we will have to do. We had a grant at one point when we had a potential project that would fund half of that, but we need to come up with an additional matching fund. So this has been something that's been held out for the last couple of years, that if a project comes forward, we could reapply for environmental remediation grants, but we'd have to have this match to come forward. The other is, future industrial park planning. As we know right now, we're getting down there, which is a good thing on the industrial park land that we have, but what happens after this? And being able to provide some funding to make some determinations on what we may be able to do. We've been working on our business incubator over the last year or so, looking at potential sites for that and how that may operate, putting some funding towards that program, and then also viability of the downtown alley as well. So those are the bigger items that we have moving forward based upon the priorities we've established. So wanted to bring that forward to HEDRA's attention, any discussion on that. As far as what happens in the budget process now, we'll be meeting with different committee, the finance committee of the city council and the council themselves to put together the final budget over the summer, and we'll have that wrapped up by fall. So I can stand for any questions.
Commissioner Johnson?
I have two of them. The downtown environmental cleanup, is that something we need to start, or that's pending development plan, and at that point it would start?
Correct. It would be pending a development plan. We would not start that but for a plan, because we would not be grant eligible.
Okay, so it's budget dollars that may or may not get spent within budget year?
Correct.
Okay. And then the revolving loan funds, what's our utilization been, like percentage of that from year to year?
It's a very good question. I mean, sometimes it can be 10, 20%, sometimes it can be 100. Last year, with what we allocated for Spiral, I think we had about $60,000, $70,000 in that one, so that was a little over half.
Thank you.
So remind me, what are the interest rate on that? Where did we land on that? I can't remember.
Interest rate, I think, is 0.25% over prime is what we do.
John, on the local oil property there, North Art Space, what's left there that needs to be done? I mean, I thought that we had that initial cleanup, but apparently there's still more.
That was our thought too. When we went forward with the art space sale 5 years ago, we had cleaned it up to the qualifications of the state in 2000. Those regulations had changed. What was acceptable at that time for having certain contaminants on site at certain quantities had changed, so that we are now liable to go in there and remediate more soil. So the regulations on what could remain have changed, and that was a surprise to us, because when we sold the property to Art Space, we had done our phase 1, phase 2 analysis, and doing their due diligence, they did similar and said, wait a second here, we have to do more. So we were able to get grants and clean up that site. So the nice thing is we have a pretty good idea of what we're going to get into, because I don't think there's going to be much difference between the north and the south half of that site. But yeah, obligation we have out there.
John, how does this budget compare to last year? I guess when you just look at this, it's hard to tell, is it
Sure.
more or less, or where we're at?
Everything in this budget, but for the redevelopment capital, is very similar. The redevelopment capital is different in this one, because instead of using the fund balance, we are now asking that directly from the council. So that's the big increase. Beyond that, it's pretty comparable.
And do you know what we were spent year to date then, or halfway through the year? How much have we spent then of this year's budget?
Oh, as far as how much we've spent so far this year? And Commissioner, not off the top of my head, I'm looking at, at different items on here. We've had probably half of the facade improvement grant program spent. Revolving loan funds we haven't issued yet. And some of these other items for future planning that we're doing, we're maybe a third of the way in.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions on that? Okay. All right, thanks, John.
Yeah.
Rocos contract?
Rocos contract, yeah. You may recall last year we entered a contract with Rocos Advisors to help us in marketing and finding tenants for the 50-acre piece of the industrial park. We've had good meetings with them. The individual we've been involved with, Raisa Matala, is very well connected and is involved in a lot of real estate transactions. That contract is set to expire this year at the end of this month. Raisa is going on her own at this point, looking at what Rocos could provide without Raisa as opposed to Raisa on her own. I'd rather go with Raisa. The connections she has are very strong. So we will have a contract for your consideration at the August meeting after this one expires, but making sure that we have someone out there that is really marketing and putting this out there. So just wanted to bring that forward for your attention.
Questions on that? Commissioner Carter?
So Raisa is an independent contractor with Rocos?
She's employed with Rocos right now, and then she's leaving Rocos, and it'll be on her own.
Okay, is there a non-compete? Is she able to still do business after? Okay.
That's what I've been told with her, because I had the similar question on that,
Okay.
is, are we going to end up in a non-compete situation? But she's assured me that that would be fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any great leads? Are we still kind of?
Leads, yes. Nothing I really can share at this point, but she's getting it out there, and that's always been the difficulty with that site. We went through a shovel-ready program 5-6 years ago, put everything together, thought that would do it. It nothing much happened down there. We've had more attention with Raisa and Rocos's contact here than we've had in the last few years before them. So I'm hopeful that'll turn into something tangible. And I should say with the contract too, the contract itself, it's a percentage of sale at this point. So there's no ongoing expenses that we have. If they fail to perform, we're not paying anything out.
Terms as we had prior?
Yes, and
Okay.
those would be the same terms that I would insist upon as we move forward with the next one.
And that's a year contract, are we talking?
This was a year contract. I would assume the next one would be similar.
Okay. Any other questions on that? All right, development updates.
Development updates. Well, Confluence is kind of looking like it's going to open up soon now, doesn't it? Yeah, right, yeah. The question out there that I get from many people is, when is Confluence opening? The answer that I have is really, really soon. I haven't heard anything specifically from the group as to when they will be open, but it seems, within the coming weeks that we'll see that open up. I mean, I was in the building the other day. Apartments are complete, hotel rooms are complete. They're finishing off some of their public spaces. It's really, really close. So we're all looking forward to that coming forward. Let's see, we on the Thorwood site, which is 315 Pine Street, the fire that occurred there, we did have an item go forward to Planning Commission on Monday for a special use permit to have a meeting space occur on the first floor. What the owner of the property is intending to do is to rehabilitate it. First floor would be a 25 to 30 person meeting space, and then rental units above that. They've been putting forward their structural plans for development, which are looking to be in very good shape. There's just a lot of work that needs to occur on that one. And so Planning Commission had a couple of questions on parking. They tabled it. We'll bring it back in a couple of weeks. So that one moves forward, and hopefully we'll move forward at a quicker pace. One of the things that the owner of the property has assured us is that come winter, that property will be covered and the demolition will be complete. So We still have some months left of summer and fall, and I really hope that that continues on, and I really do appreciate the patience of the neighbors as this thing has been going on entirely too long. Other things from Planning Commission, we had a minor subdivision at Shepherd of the Valley. In itself, it's splitting half of the property off. But in the future, it appears there's going to be a townhome community, maybe 15, 20 townhomes on the east side of that property. That hasn't been, application has not been submitted as of this time, but it looks like it's coming down the road. Another small addition down on Glendale and Spiral Boulevard. We have a 20-acre piece of property splitting into two 10-acre pieces for 2 lots. It's zoned agriculture, not geared towards city services, so we do have a 10-acre minimum there, so pretty minor. The Regina Assisted Living plans for their parking lot was approved by council this month, as well as the Dakota Law Enforcement. Heritage Ridge, their 4th edition, City Council will be considering an extension of 1 year to the recording of their final plat for that last edition, which is about 30 lots. In speaking with Creative Homes, they've seen a little bit of softening in the market. They have a lot of inventory within the first 3 editions, and so their plan is to start grading in the spring and have lots ready come summer and fall of next year. So that'll be on the council agenda for Monday. So that's all I had for updates.
Anybody have any questions on anything in their packet or anything John talked about? Okay, great. I think that's it, right?
I think that's it.
Okay, I like that. I'll stand for a motion to adjourn. So moved. Commissioner Johnson? Second. Commissioner Carter, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Okay.